Republicans finally revealed the details of their tax plans. Now we know the all-important income brackets, which will help determine how much of your paycheck goes to our government. We'll also show you all the numbers and explain what they mean and how this new tax bill would affect everything from corporate tax rates to your mortgage interest deduction.
This plan is for the middle-class families in this country who deserve a break.
They say they want to help the middle class. Tax cuts for the rich aren't going to help the middle class.
Plus, prosecutors now say the accused New York City mass murderer started planning his attack a year ago. Ahead, what else they revealed in court documents, and a look at some of the victims moments before a madman crashed down a bike path. Also, the former Trump campaign manager, Paul Manafort, back in court this afternoon after special counsel Robert Mueller indicted him. While on Capitol Hill, the House Intelligence Committee asks questions of the former Trump campaign advisor, Carter Page. We'll see how that went. Let's get to it.
Breaking news. Shepard Smith reporting live from the Fox News deck.
And the news is breaking indeed. A live look at the White House, the Rose Garden, where we're expecting to hear from the president at any moment now. He's set to announce his nominee to run the Federal Reserve. Some analysts call that the most important job in all the country, or at least the second most behind the presidency. The Fed controls interest rates, so it affects everything from bank accounts to credit cards and your mortgage. It also has a very big influence on the stock market. Another major story today that will affect your wallet, the GOP tax plan. House Republicans jockeyed late into the night and now have released details of their proposal, which calls for the biggest changes to the tax code in 30 years. And we finally know what income levels fall under each tax bracket. So listen up, here it is. The proposal includes a 0% tax bracket. Individuals who make less than $12,000 a year pay no income tax. Same goes for married couples who make less than $24,000. The next bracket is 12%. It's for individuals who make up to $45,000 and couples who make up to $90,000. After that, 25%, up to $200,000 for individuals, $260,000 for couples. Next is 35%, up to $500,000 for individuals, up to $1 million for couples. And anything higher than those levels falls under the top tax rate of 39.6%, just as it does now. The proposal nearly doubles the standard deduction, or the amount of the income tax that's tax-free. $12,000 for individuals, $24,000 for married couples. And Republican leaders say there will be no change to 401k retirement plans. The plan also slashes the corporate tax rate from 35 to 20%. On Obamacare, it does not repeal the individual mandate. The alternative minimum tax, gone. The deduction for state and local taxes, gone. The deduction for property taxes, limited to $10,000. As I said, no change in 401ks. The bill does allow homeowners to keep the mortgage deduction, but it caps that deduction for new mortgages at $500,000. That news sent home builder stocks plummeting today. Home Depot, the biggest loser on the big board this afternoon. And as I noted, the plan would also limit deductions for state and local taxes. This could be a major sticking point in passing the bill, especially in big high-tax cities and states. Some Republicans have already come out against this. Overall, this tax plan, should it go through like this, which it will not, would add $1.5 trillion to the nation's debt over the next decade. President Trump says most Americans will be able to file their taxes on a postcard.
The incredible plan to cut taxes. Now it's reform and it's lots of other things, but we're cutting taxes. It'll be the biggest tax cut in our history. There's nothing more important to our economy. You see what's happening with our economy and how well it's doing. This is going to really bring it to the next level.
The House Minority Leader, Nancy Pelosi, disagrees, says the Republican tax plan will hurt the middle class.
It raises taxes on the middle class, millions of middle-class families across the country, borrows trillions from the future, from our children and grandchildren's future, to give tax cuts to the wealthiest, encourages corporations to ship jobs overseas, and the budget ransacks Medicare.
The bill will change. That starts next week. Lobbyists and industry groups will now pounce and spend tens of millions of dollars on both sides, for and against. Objections are many, and the time is very tight. The deadline for this is the end of the year. We'll have much more ahead on this, but first, the Chief White House correspondent John Roberts is live in the Rose Garden as we await President Trump. Hello, John.
Good afternoon to you, Shep. The president should be out here in the next few minutes or so. This was scheduled for 3 o'clock. It's about 4 minutes after now, and typically these things run a few minutes late. The president clearly very happy with what is another milepost along the way in terms of his tax reform plan. And it's kind of like that old football adage. It's 3 yards in a cloud of dust to try to get tax reform across the goal line. He had the vote in the House. Now he's got the plan in the Oval Office today. The president announcing a new jobs program, Broadcom, a new company, or at least an old company from the United States that moved to Singapore, moving back to the United States. And then in the cabinet room meeting with the Ways and Means Committee, the president saying that he is very happy with what happened today in terms of getting most but not all of what he wanted. He wanted full elimination of the state and local tax deduction. He got it up to $10,000. But otherwise, I think that he is looking at what happened in the House today in terms of the plan that came out and said, this is something I can work with. Listen to what the president said a short time ago.
We're working to give the American people a giant tax cut for Christmas. We are giving them a big, beautiful Christmas present in the form of a tremendous tax cut. It will be the biggest cut in the history of our country. It'll also be tax reform, and it'll create jobs.
Not likely that this will happen in time for Christmas, though the president has said, and Kevin Brady sort of tacitly agreed, well, we'll try, when he was there in the cabinet room with the president, wants to get this through the House by Thanksgiving. While the president is in Asia and he leaves for that trip tomorrow, Shep, his cabinet members will be crisscrossing the country selling this tax plan to try to get it across the goal line by Thanksgiving in the House. Senate, though, is going to take a longer period of time. There's been some talk about making it retroactive for 2017, but don't know how far that talk is going to go. Shep?
The Federal Reserve, a mighty big job. There's a decision today. Tell us about it.
Jerome Powell is going to be the new Fed chairman. He is very much in the mold of Janet Yellen, whom the president was initially very critical of the campaign trail, but then after getting to know her in a series of meetings said he really liked her, but the White House wanted to put its own stamp on the Fed chair spot. So Jerome Powell, who's expected to maintain the sort of slow and steady pace of raising interest rates, is going to be the next Fed chairman. We should point out that he will be the first Fed chairman who doesn't have a PhD in economics in the past 4 decades, and we believe, Shep, that he's coming out now. So rather than listen to me, let's listen to them.
The right thing, John. Thank you. Here we go.
Thank you very much. Please. I'm pleased to welcome members of the Cabinet, members of Congress, and distinguished guests to the White House Rose Garden this afternoon. Also, I want to welcome the chairman of the Senate Banking Committee, who's done an incredible job, Mike Crapo. Where's Mike? Please, Mike. Great job. Appreciate it. As president, there are a few decisions more important than nominating leaders of integrity and good judgment to hold trusted positions in public office. And few of those trusted positions are more important than the chairman of the Federal Reserve. Accordingly, it is my pleasure and my honor to announce my nomination of Jerome Powell to be the next chairman of the Federal Reserve. Congratulations, Jay.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Jay is joined here by his wife, Lissa, and his 2 sisters, Monica and Elizabeth. And I say congratulations to you all. Please take that bow, please. You deserve it. Thank you very much for being here. Today is another important milestone on the path to restoring economic opportunity for the American people. In just a short time, we have already made incredible strides. Unemployment is at its lowest level in more than 16 years. You know that very well. You know that very well, and you're happy about it. We've now had back-to-back quarters of 3% growth, a major accomplishment, and we're doing better and better every single week. But if we are to sustain all of this tremendous economic progress, our economy requires sound monetary policy and prudent oversight of our banking system. That is why we need strong, sound, and steady leadership at the United States Federal Reserve. I have nominated Jay to be our next federal chairman, and so important because he will provide exactly that type of leadership. He's strong, he's committed, he's smart. And if he is confirmed by the Senate, Jay will put his considerable talents and experience to work leading our nation's independent central bank, which has the critical responsibility to set monetary policy and our banking system as a whole. There are a few more important positions than this, believe me, in our government. Jay has served on the Federal Reserve Board of Governors since 2012. During his 5 years at the Fed, Jay has earned the respect and admiration of his colleagues for his hard work, expertise, and judgment. He has proven to be a consensus builder for the sound monetary and financial policy that he so strongly believes in. Based on his record, I am confident that Jay has the wisdom and leadership to guide our economy through any challenges that our great economy may face. Jay has earned the respect of members of Congress straight across party lines. For each of his appointments to the Fed, the Senate confirmed Jay with strong support from members of both parties. That's unusual. I hope the Senate will swiftly confirm him once again. Jay will also bring to the Fed a unique background of prior government service and business experience. He previously served as Undersecretary at the Department of Treasury in the administration of President George H.W. Bush. And just like William McChesney Martin, the longest-serving chairman in Federal Reserve history, Jay will bring extensive private sector experience and real-world perspective to our government. As a result, he understands what it takes for our economy to grow. And just as importantly, he understands what truly drives American success: the innovation, hard work, and dreams of the American people. I also want to thank the current chair, Fed Chair, Janet Yellen, a wonderful woman who's done a terrific job. We have been working together for 10 months, and she is absolutely a spectacular person. Janet, thank you very much. We appreciate it. For the past 4 years, she has served with dedication and devotion, and we are grateful for her total commitment to public service. The Federal Reserve is one of the most important institutions in our government. It is respected all around the world and is crucial to our economic prosperity. I am confident that with Jay as a wise steward of the Federal Reserve, it will have the leadership it needs in the years to come. Thank you, and God bless you all. Now I would like to invite Jay to say a few words. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. President, for the faith that you have shown in me through this nomination. And I'm both honored and humbled by this opportunity to serve our great country. If I am confirmed by the Senate, I will do everything within my power to achieve our congressionally assigned goals of stable prices and maximum employment. I want to thank my wife, Alyssa, for her love, support, and wise counsel. Without her, quite honestly, I would not be standing here. We're thinking today of our 3 children and of the world they're inheriting. My 5 siblings and I, 2 of whom are here today with me, are also thinking today of our parents, who gave us so many gifts, including, most of all, a loving home. In the years since the global financial crisis ended, our economy has made substantial progress toward full recovery. By many measures, we're close to full employment, and inflation has gradually moved up toward our target. Our financial system is also, without doubt, far stronger and more resilient than it was before the crisis. Our banks have much higher capital and liquidity. They're more aware of the risks that they run, and they're better at managing those risks. While post-crisis improvements in regulation and supervision have helped to achieve these gains, I will continue to work with my colleagues to ensure that the Federal Reserve remains vigilant and prepared to respond to changes in markets and evolving risks. Finally, to echo the President's remarks, I've had the great privilege of serving under Chairman Bernanke and Chair Yellen, who guided the economy with insight and courage through difficult times while moving monetary policy toward greater transparency and predictability. Each of them embodies the highest ideals of public service, unquestioned integrity, and unflinching commitment to fulfilling our mandate. Inside the Federal Reserve, we understand that monetary policy decisions matter for American families and communities. I strongly share that sense of mission, and I'm committed to making decisions with objectivity, based on the best available evidence, in the long-standing tradition of monetary policy independence. Mr. President, thank you again for this extraordinary opportunity to serve the American people. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
President, why not renominate Janet Yellen, sir? Mr. President, do you think you're in hot water in the Mueller investigation? Is it too soon to discuss non-immigrant terrorism, like as in Vegas?
Lots of questions there, as is common. No answers, which, sometimes there are, sometimes there aren't. Chief White House correspondent John Roberts is usually good for a few. He's live in the Rose Garden. And, John, this matters for our money, all of our money.
It does, and I mean the clear inflection point that showed us all how much it mattered for our money was back there in 2008 when the financial crisis hit, and had it not been for a very steady and knowledgeable Fed chairman, our economy might have gone completely in the tank. And you heard Jerome Powell say there that since the economic crisis of 2008, 2009, the economy has become much more on a solid footing. The banks have taken on less risk, or at least they've been able to manage that risk better. There's more liquidity that the banks have, cash on hand, that sort of thing. So he wants to continue along the path that has been set for the last few years, which is to really go slow and steady when it comes to making changes. There were a couple of potential nominees the president was looking at who likely would have increased interest rates fairly substantially. That would have roiled the markets. One thing I can tell you, that in making his decision, Shep, the president really likes what he sees with the stock market being up there, hovering now near the 24,000 mark, and he wants to keep that going. I mean, I think that's kind of an instant gratification thing for the president to be able to say, look at how well our stock market is doing. And at every opportunity, he likes to say how many trillions of dollars have been added to the value of the economy in terms of the stock market. So he wants to see that continue on its upward path. He believes that if tax reform gets passed, that could soar past 25,000. And the last thing he wants is somebody at the levers of our financial areas, jacking up interest rates and having some sort of negative effect, some sort of deleterious effect on the stock market. So that's one of the reasons why he went with Powell, because very much in the mold of Janet Yellen. He also believes that Powell will get confirmed, and he alluded to this very easily, because when he was first confirmed to the Board of Governors in 2012 and again in 2014, he had substantial support from the other side of the aisle with the Democratic Party. So this seems to be a pretty safe pick. Conservatives might have preferred John Taylor, who's the economist from Stanford, but I think he's got a pretty broad base of support for this pick, Shep, and he'll likely get this through the Senate very quickly.
John Roberts in the Rose Garden. Good to see you, and thank you again.
Good to see you, too. Thank you.
Much more now on the Republican tax plan. There's lots to get through, and some lawmakers on both sides say they have concerns. Our chief congressional correspondent, Mike Emanuel, is up on Capitol Hill and hearing from them all. Hello, Mike.
Well, hi, Shep. Yeah, part of the pitch is that the typical American family will get a tax break of up to $1,200. Also, part of the pitch is this will make tax time, April 15th, a lot easier.
For 90% of Americans will be able to fill out their taxes on a postcard. That's what simplicity means, not only having more money in your pocket, but being able to do this.
Top GOP lawmakers say this is not going to be easy, but they are determined to deliver on this one.
The political will among the members here in the House, as shown by the members of the Ways and Means Committee, is ironclad to get this done.
They are also well aware that there's great expectations among their voters across the country, Shep.
I said earlier, this won't be the tax bill, and it will not. Changes will happen. The leaders on both sides of the aisle tell us that. There's no question about it. It's not a debate. It's not an opinion. It's going to change. The question is, how is it going to change? There are a lot of leaders on the Republican side from some high-tax cities around the country who are mighty upset about this tax deduction thing.
No question about it. And so one concession that was made was allowing to write off some of the state and local property taxes up to $10,000, but to scrap other local and state tax deductions. New Jersey Congressman Leonard Lance, a Republican, saying, quote, "There is much to like in this legislation, but the proposed cap on deductibility of state and local taxes makes the bill unacceptable at this time." A New York Republican says she's more of a yes than a no at this point.
There are some good things. I think we're still fighting the fight. This is just going to be a proposal. It's got to go to the Senate. The Senate's got to, do what they do with it, and God knows what they'll do. And then it'll come back to us on reconciliation. So that's where we are.
The Senate is working on a package of its own, so this is really just the beginning, Shep.
Mike, thanks. What would this mean for your wallet? Specifics to your family and your income group. Jerry Willis has that in detail next from the Fox News deck. It's great day. Continuing the breaking news coverage, and we have a budget proposal from the House Republicans. Much more on that tax plan and how it could affect your families. The Fox Business Network's Jerry Willis is here with a look at that, and you have some examples.
Yeah, we wanted to drill down. Who are the winners? Who are the losers, right? Okay, let's look at winners first. So let's look at a family of four making $59,000. They will pay $1,182 less. Why? Because they get a doubling of the standard deduction. There's a child tax credit that goes from $1,000 to $1,600, and a family flexibility credit. I almost said that right. So after all this is over, they're going to pay a tax bill of $400 instead of $1,582.
Okay.
All right.
That sounds good.
How about a single parent?
How about that?
Single parent making $30,000. They are going to get a big fat tax refund of $1,000, $700 more than their current refund. And again, it's because of that standard deduction we've been talking about.
And that's if you're single and zero.
That's if you're single and zero.
So if you're single and claiming no deductions, your refund will go up to $1,000.
If you're single and you have two kids.
Oh, okay. So you have two
and
deductions.
she's getting she or he. I mean,
Yeah, true
sometimes
that.
it's a fella.
One never knows.
So, and making $30,000.
Sometimes it's gender neutral. It's America.
And
Come
them.
on. Yep, and them. You're right.
Okay. So here's the thing. So Ways and Means, they told me everybody's a winner. And I said, somebody's ox is getting gored here. So
Always.
let's take a look at the people who, hey, you might be paying a little bit more money here. High income earners, if you're making a ton of dough, if you live in a blue state, and you're paying a high state and local taxes on income, okay? Or
if you
property.
do that, right, go on, and property taxes too.
You're going to get killed here. These are the people who are in the crosshairs.
Which, he had said, rich people got to pay their fair share. This is a middle income tax cut. And on the main, the Democrats are saying it really isn't. But if you look at this thing, if you're a W-2 earner, and you live in a big state with big taxes, your taxes are going way, way up.
And in some ways,
That's a fact.
This is a political document in some ways, right?
Well, sure, because it's blue state people who pay more.
That's right. Only one exception to this, and this is if you're a sole proprietor, right? Your tax level could go from 39.6% now to 25%. It could fall dramatically because they're trying to lower rates on small business operators, on sole proprietors.
They've done a really good job saying what isn't necessarily true about the estate tax, because largely the estate tax changes affect the very wealthy.
And
with
even more
a
so
handful, there's maybe 360 million people in America. Two hands full of people who are not rich will be helped by this estate tax change. Otherwise, this is a help to rich people, so that big rich families can keep their big rich money in their families.
The exemption is getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. They couldn't do it right away. They're going to push it off into later in the tenure of this tax bill. But let me tell you, I think the problem with this bill that they're going to find is it's lit up like a Christmas tree. There are so many benefits for so many people out there. I don't really understand how we do this and not have the nation's debt. It's $20 trillion right now, for the love of goodness. How that doesn't get bigger.
Remember, Republicans used to say, don't add to the deficit. They just added $1.5 trillion to the deficit. $1.5 trillion. Thank you, Jerry.
Welcome.
Good to see you. Let's turn to Anna Palmer now, senior Washington correspondent for Politico, co-author of the Politico Playbook, I should say newspaper, Playbook newsletter. Anna, I never get it exactly right. She's live at the Rotunda. Here's a question. Who on Capitol Hill is going to go, no how, no way, I'm a Republican and I'm against this bill?
I think you're already starting to see some of that. I mean, one of the things is they had a meeting this morning very early trying to lay out what the talking points are on this bill, and it was pretty muted in terms of the opposition. I think right now what you're going to see in the next couple of days is people really pouring through this legislation. A lot of these blue state Democrats, Republicans in these states like New York, Pennsylvania, California are going to have a very hard time voting for something like this.
And as a result, there are always changes on a bill like this. But what sort of changes should we expect from what we have right now, in your estimation?
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of changes. There are going to be a lot of negotiations. The lobbyists and kind of special interests are just starting to kind of pour through this. One of the questions is going to be, what is the foreign tax here? It's about 10% right now, is what I've heard. And I think there's going to be some big companies, big tech companies, that could come out very aggressively against that. What do the home builders do and their realtors? Do they have any impact on this and the ability to try to get the mortgage deduction in a different position than it is right now?
I was just looking for Home Depot stocks. For some reason, the ribbon above me changed, but Home Depot was down about 2%. The industry and those who bet on the industry in the markets believe that this is going to hurt housing starts. People are like, oh, it's only for 500,000. Good luck getting a studio apartment in a city like this it's absolutely impossible to do something like that. They think this will hurt housing starts.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think in a city like Washington, even, it's become very hard to buy in the city in some of these single-family homes if you have a couple of children. So I think this is something you're going to see them. The home builders went very aggressively even before this bill was released. The realtors are now going to do that. And the issue with that is every single member of Congress has realtors and home builders, and this industry is something where that kind of retail politicking actually usually does matter. You know, and I was trying to figure out a way to explain to viewers what's about to happen with lobbyists and industry groups swooping in on that city. How much money are they expected to spend lobbying this thing? This is going to be kind of boomtown for K Street. I spent 10 years covering lobbying and money in politics. And these kinds of bills, I mean, there hasn't been a major rewrite of the tax code since 1986. So, and the issue with the tax code, just like healthcare, but even probably more so, it touches every single industry. Every company wants to keep their small deductions, their things that could mean a bunch to the bottom line. And so you're going to see tens of millions of dollars being spent in the next several months.
Anna, it's great to see you.
Great to see you too. Thanks.
Thanks. The former Trump campaign chairman Paul Manafort in court after the special counsel Robert Mueller indicted him. And Manafort apparently has a problem with his bail conditions. And one of President Trump's former campaign advisors appearing in front of lawmakers today. What we know about that coming up. And President Trump's former campaign manager and a former campaign aide asking a federal judge to free them from house arrest. They're facing charges including conspiracy, money laundering, and failure to register as a foreign agent. In court filings, the two men say they do not pose a risk of leaving the country, but the feds have said both men are indeed flight risks. Paul Manafort especially leaving the courthouse in D.C. just about an hour ago. According to the court filing, he says Mueller embellished the case against him. Both men pleaded not guilty. Chief Intelligence Correspondent Catherine Herridge live in Washington for us this afternoon. Hello, Catherine.
Well, thanks, Shep. So in the courthouse behind me, Gates and Manafort, their attorneys made the argument that they want off this GPS monitoring and they want out from under this home confinement. But the Judge Amy Jackson said, in this court, gentlemen, we file motions. You've got to do that. The government has a chance to respond. So we will not be addressing this issue of confinement and monitoring until we're back on Monday. Also significantly, the judge said to the lawyers that they've really got to abide by the local rules in this court, which is avoiding pre-trial publicity. And based on her language, it sounds like she was upset by the statement made by Manafort's attorney on the courthouse steps after Monday's indictment.
That President Donald Trump was correct. There is no evidence that Mr. Manafort or the Trump campaign colluded with the Russian government. Mr. Manafort represented pro-European Union campaigns. He was seeking to further democracy and to help the Ukraine come closer to the United States and the EU.
Judge Jackson effectively admonished the attorneys today, saying that this is a criminal trial and not a public relations campaign, Shep.
Hey, we're also learning more about the former members of the Trump campaign.
Okay, so Sam Clovis is not a household name, but he was a senior political operative in the Trump campaign. Today, he sent a letter to the president saying that he is withdrawing from the nomination for a senior job at the Agriculture Department. What we know from our reporting here at Fox is that special counsel Robert Mueller has been looking at Clovis and the role he played bringing two other individuals into the Trump campaign. One is former foreign policy advisor Carter Page, who is on Capitol Hill today answering questions behind closed doors, as well as George Papadopoulos. Papadopoulos is the guy who pled guilty earlier this month to lying to the FBI about his efforts to arrange meetings between then-candidate Trump and senior government officials, including Putin. Shep.
Catherine, thanks. Tom LoBianco's here now, reporter who covers the Russia investigation for the Associated Press. Sam Clovis, what does this tell us?
Well, that's a big deal. I'll tell you, Sam Clovis was a very important figure inside the campaign. I remember back in, I think it was the end of 2015, it might have been a little bit before Iowa, when they picked him up. It was a big deal when the Trump campaign picked him up. He's a huge player in Iowa politics. This was supposed to be the return payment on that for him being loyal to the Trump campaign. But you can see that pressure because of Papadopoulos and also Carter Page brought into that foreign policy team by Clovis. So today he issues that he withdraws himself from consideration.
Yeah, and he indicted the politics of the day when actually the problem is his own. It's right there in that confession of sorts from Papadopoulos.
Absolutely. And, you know, look, the question now is this the end or is this the beginning? And look, everyone's been talking about this all week behind the scenes here at the White House. When you talk with advisors, Trump supporters, everyone's trying to get a sense of this. Now, you know, the Trump supporters like to say that this is the end of it. It ends at Manafort, it ends at Gates. Papadopoulos was a nobody. But then something like Clovis happens today. And it expands out a little bit further. So it's very hard to tell. Remember, Papadopoulos was not on, really, with the exception of a few people back in August, he wasn't really on anyone's radar in this investigation, and then just popped out of nowhere on Monday.
Mike Flynn much?
That is a big question. That's a big name with a big question mark over it right now. It's hard to say at this point what's going to happen with him, but he's certainly in their targets.
Is Papadopoulos limited now, or is this Clovis revelation a sign of things to come?
Well, we're trying to figure that out right now. If there's anyone else, remember, look at the timeline that was revealed in those court documents. He was picked up on July 28th, Dulles International Airport. He pleaded out on October 5th, and then we didn't hear about it until this Monday. So they kept that under wraps for a very long time. In one of the court filings, they refer to him as cooperative. It sounds like he was trying to, there's been speculation he might have been wearing a wire. We don't know that. There's no proof of that, but there's been a lot of chatter about that. Is there anyone else like that who got picked up months ago that we don't know about? That's what we're looking for.
We'll know soon enough. The world will know. Tom LoBianco, great to see you. Thank you.
Likewise. Thanks.
More breaking news. Fox News can now confirm, and this is an interesting one, the Republican Congressman Lamar Smith of Texas is retiring from Congress. He's a Trump supporter. He's in a district that went 10 points for Trump in the positive. The thing is, he's been termed out, or in other words, is no longer eligible for committee chairmanships. He and another Republican have been out in the last few weeks. The Financial Services Committee in the House, the chairman there, Jeb Hensarling, also out. 2 Texans, Republicans, gone. We're learning more heartbreaking details today about some of the victims of Tuesday's terror attack here in New York City, plus videos showing this group of friends right before it happened and what we know about the suspect. That's coming up.